NBC's Mike Memoli reports from outside the courthouse in Wilmington. Also with us, former U.S. Attorney and MSNBC legal analyst Barbara McQuade. Mike, let's start with what sounds like an emotionally charged confrontation in the courtroom hallway. What exactly happened?
Yeah, Chris, we know what a sensitive moment this is for the entire Biden family, the show of support that his extended family is making by being present in the court every day. But it was a moment captured just outside of the court during a break in the proceedings by our colleague Sarah Fitzpatrick that's getting the attention here. Melissa Cohen Biden confronted Garrett Ziegler. He's a former aide in the Trump administration and called him a Nazi piece of you know what comes next. This was all about whether, she said it was inappropriate for him to even be attending this trial. He's been attending it over the course of the last 2 days. Now, there's a backstory here, as you might imagine. Mr. Ziegler is part of a group that he co-founded that helped publish a searchable database of the infamous Hunter Biden laptop. Hunter Biden has filed suit against Mr. Ziegler, and they've certainly been on one another's radar for some time, leading to this confrontation today. Now, we should note that Sarah Fitzpatrick, our colleague, spoke to Mr. Ziegler after this confrontation. He said it's prudent for him to be there and said that he disputed Ms. Cohen Biden's characterization of him as a Nazi, saying that he respects the Constitution.
All right. So even aside from that, you can't ignore, Mike, the tabloid aspect of this trial. It was Hallie Biden who found the gun at the center of this and threw it away. The defense attorney today seemed to try to put some of the blame on Hallie Biden. Tell us what unfolded in terms of the defense story today.
Yeah, during the course of the opening statements, we saw the prosecutors lay out some of the evidence they're going to introduce, including the testimony they expect from Hallie Biden, who would talk about, and there was some surprise for those who weren't familiar with the details about Hallie Biden's own use of drugs while she was romantically involved with Hunter Biden. When Abbe Lowell, the defense attorney, had his chance to deliver opening statements, he tried to lay out the chain of custody for the gun that Hunter Biden purchased, which is at the center of this case. And he tried to, over the course of explaining that timeline, prove, at least create some reasonable doubt about whether or not Hunter was addicted to drugs, using drugs at the time. So he noted that there had been some cocaine residue that was found on the weapon after it was discovered. And Mr. Lowell suggested, based on the fact that it was in a locked box in the car that Hunter Biden had been using, that it was that Hallie, when she recovered the gun, may have been responsible for the cocaine residue being put on it. This is obviously something that will be litigated over the course of the coming weeks here, and it speaks to why the family is so concerned about this moment. The president, the first lady are looking at this as parents, but also as grandparents. And of course, Hallie Biden was with the first family last week when they visited the gravesite of Beau Biden, who passed away just 9 years ago this last week. Also there were Hallie Biden and Beau Biden's children. Chris.
So let me start there, if I can, Barbara, because whether or not it was Hunter Biden, whether it was Hallie Biden, whoever may have left cocaine residue on the gun that prosecutors say was there, does that get us to what the heart of this case is?
Well, I think we learned today in the opening statements of the defense what the argument is going to be about. It doesn't seem that they are going to dispute the fact that Hunter Biden did indeed buy this gun, that he filled out the form, that he filled it out the way they say he did. Those facts, I think, are not going to be in dispute. And the law, of course, prohibits someone from buying and possessing a gun if they're addicted to illegal drugs. But the focus that Abbe Lowell has put on these charges is the word knowingly. And that is, the question says, are you addicted to drugs? And if Hunter Biden himself did not believe that he was at that moment addicted to drugs because he was in recovery or his substance of choice at the moment was alcohol, and he truthfully answered no, then the prosecution will fail to meet their burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So all of these other things, I suppose, are interesting. You know, the hearing Hunter Biden's voice himself narrating his own book about his addiction is certainly going to be persuasive evidence for the prosecution that he was an addict and he knew he was an addict. But it all comes down to his state of mind on that day. And it's a wise strategy, I think, for the defense, because proving what's in someone's mind is always the hardest thing for a prosecutor to do.
Yeah, in one way, I guess you could say that Hunter Biden was the star witness at his own trial today, even though he didn't speak, because they did play those excerpts from his autobiography. But I want to ask you about Hallie Biden and Hunter Biden's relationship. Look, that could be complicated for a jury. As I said, there are certainly embarrassing and tabloid aspects to this trial, but also that relationship is an integral part of the story. How does the defense help jurors separate what's relevant from what's just talkable?
Well, if you're the defense, one of your goals is to simply disrupt the prosecution's case of proving the case beyond a reasonable doubt. So in some ways, the more you can entangle other people and other facts and confuse the issues, the more successful you might be in your defense. And so, it was the defense attorney, Abbe Lowell, who sort of suggested that it could have been Hallie Biden who ended up putting the cocaine residue on the gun. There's no fact of that, but just raising that possibility is what defense attorneys do, to point out that, there's more than one possibility of the version of facts that the prosecutor is giving you. So I suspect we'll hear more of that, and that it will actually be the defense that raises some of these uncomfortable facts about some of the other people involved in this case.
Mike Memoli and Barbara McQuade, we will be talking much more about this trial as it moves forward. Remember, only day one, opening arguments. Thank you both so much.